life is honestly about winning and losing. You have to have both, and that's what Jiu-Jitsu teaches us. And if everybody trained Jiu-Jitsu, even in the times right now during a pandemic, we would all just have a little bit of a different approach. You know, we're going through an uncertain time right now. Again, we were at 8 months of a lockdown, or at least a modified lockdown, and now we're going back into it. But one thing that we have learned, that all this is another situation and another battle that I have to get through, that we all have to get through. That is Jiu-Jitsu. It'll teach us the skills that we need. It is essential that we keep training this. It is mandatory that we allow our minds to still stay active and connected with our body. And through these times, Jiu-Jitsu will give us the strength to be able to find ways to get through this, not only individually, but together. This is the Savage Hour Podcast. We take you inside the mind of fighters, athletes, and entrepreneurs. Don't miss an episode. Follow and subscribe. You know, Jiu-Jitsu is one of those things that I believe everybody should at least have some form of training in. You know, it's something that it teaches us so many more values about life rather than it just being about training Jiu-Jitsu. And you know, I've realized that Jiu-Jitsu is something that I truly believe that I can teach to anybody. I can teach it to any size, any race, any ethnicity, any language. You know, Jiu-Jitsu is one of those things that it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from or what your background is. It doesn't matter. What Jiu-Jitsu does is it makes us see the language of Jiu-Jitsu. It tells us, okay, if you don't know something, you have to either get better at it, or it will be the reason why you are forced to quit. And then it's up to you to use that information to get better and keep going and do it again. There's not many other things like that in life that teaches us those kind of strong values of being able to say, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm not good enough, I quit, but I do want to learn this and I go again. And that's what Jiu-Jitsu really does teach us. You know, we're at a time right now where we got these situations where, you know, law enforcement are being seen with excessive force. People that are breaking out into fights are not knowing how to defend themselves. Hell, you can even go into the elite level of combat sports. I'm seeing Jiu-Jitsu used, in my opinion, at a very intermediate level. And, you know, that sucks to even say that. What it is because the shit gets watered down. But if everybody were to start training Jiu-Jitsu, if it was something that we could include in our schooling systems, it's something that we could include in our workforces, especially law enforcement, we would all see so much different change in the way we approach just every interaction. Because Jiu-Jitsu, it's forcing us to remove our ego. It forces us to get into an environment that's uncomfortable. It forces us day after day to face our own insecurities of different levels of people that may be better than us. Jiu-Jitsu is one of the only true, pure things that there's nothing influenced by it. When you're doing Jiu-Jitsu, it's about Jiu-Jitsu. And depending on where you learn it, the approach might be a little bit different. You know, some places they like to say we keep it playful or keep it fun, or we don't do competition, or we're mostly self-defense, or even on the extreme, you know, we're a competition school. If you're doing Jiu-Jitsu, you are learning the elements of what Jiu-Jitsu is. You're going to learn positions. You're going to learn how things work. You're going to learn what doesn't work. And then through your journey and your evolution of what you're learning, you might seek out the next stage or something that wasn't working for you. You know, me personally, I actually think it's disgusting when I see places water this shit down. You know, I think Jiu-Jitsu is a phenomenal way of building self-development, but if you're training it properly, it's also a proper form of self-defense. Now, there's a lot of things that are used that they call it self-defense, but let's be honest, like, I've been training this stuff a long time. The stuff that they are considering self-defense, it works against somebody that has no idea what they're doing or are just not paying attention. A lot of the stuff that it's good for show. It's not actually going to work in a real situation. But once you start adding in the elements to it, the fear, the elevated heart rate, the sparring, then you're going to get in the levels, okay, this works and this doesn't work in combative situations because it's been battle tested. You have to try this shit. And that's what Jiu-Jitsu does. You come in the mat every single day and you test it. If you got a good gym where they're making you push to the limits, you're fighting different guys, bigger, smaller, more experienced, less experienced. You're learning what works and you're learning why it doesn't. You know, one of the things I tell my students all the time is that, listen, even if you're going with a lower belt than you, I don't need you just to smash them. What I need you to do is find a game plan. Structure that game plan and only go for that. Make yourself get better at the areas that you're not good. And if you get caught and you get submitted by people that are lower level than you, fine, great. That means that you're not that good in those areas that need to be more developed. Jiu-Jitsu does that for us. And once you start understanding this is the language of Jiu-Jitsu, we honestly start applying that to everything in life. You start seeing that with Jiu-Jitsu in the way you interact with people. You start seeing Jiu-Jitsu in the way you plan your day. You start seeing Jiu-Jitsu in all the obstacles that you're faced in everyday life. And Jiu-Jitsu really does teach us this. If we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and say, hey, I'm all in with this thing. I'm gonna learn this and I'm gonna accept Jiu-Jitsu that it's a language. It's not just two guys on the mat rolling around trying to hurt each other. That's actually the most ignorant thing I hear people say. Because the reality of that truly is, once you get on the mat and you go with somebody who's at a higher level than you, you are a fish out of water. It's really that simple. I would rather be that shark with every interaction that I have in life. Because then I know anywhere that I go, I'm gonna be okay. Even if I don't know the tools, Jiu-Jitsu has taught me that I can acquire the tools, that I can develop what I need to know. It might take time, it might go through a lot of trials and tribulations, but what it's taught me is that I will get there. And through the failures that I've learned through Jiu-Jitsu, it has also taught me that those are what have allowed me to build the keys so I can succeed. You know, the fact that I've been submitted means that I don't want to be there. I know what to get out of so I don't get stuck in that same situation again. And then I can use that to apply to my own game, and then I can start putting other situations and other people in those submissions. Tap, go again. Life is honestly about winning and losing. You have to have both, and that's what Jiu-Jitsu teaches us. And if everybody trained Jiu-Jitsu, even in the times right now during a pandemic, we would all just have a little bit of a different approach. You know, we're going through an uncertain time right now. Again, we were at 8 months of a lockdown, or at least a modified lockdown, and now we're going back into it. But one thing that we have learned, that all this is another situation and another battle that I have to get through, that we all have to get through. That is Jiu-Jitsu. It'll teach us the skills that we need. It is essential that we keep training this. It is mandatory that we allow our minds to still stay active and connected with our body. And through these times, Jiu-Jitsu will give us the strength to be able to find ways to get through this, not only individually, but together. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you like this episode, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends, and follow us across the social media platforms. Remember, live life as a champion.